rules for competitive garment manufacturing. It is our delight to have amongst us the distinguished speakers for this session. I invite Mr. Varun Vaid, Business Director, Wazir Advisors Private Limited, as a moderator for the session to please come on the stage and be seated. Mr. Varun Vaid heads the Textile Apparel Strategy Practice at Wazir Advisors. He possesses more than 2 decades of experience covering manufacturing, marketing, and consulting domains. As a strategy consultant, he has led diversified projects for private companies, government bodies, and development agencies in Asia and Africa. He has worked extensively for international development agencies such as ITC, Geneva, IFC, FCDO UK, Jaiswal, Trust, DFEMS, etc. I also request all the eminent panelists to join on stage. Mr. Anupam Jaiswal, Mr. Manish, Ranade, Mr. Surender, Jain, and Mr. Vivek, Baghora. Mr. Anupam Jaiswal is a VP of Strategy and Marketing Development at WFX. With over 15 years of global fashion industry, he has worked with more than 100 fashion companies worldwide. Mr. Anupam specializes in driving growth and innovation through technology transformation projects for major apparel manufacturing in Asia and Europe. We have Mr. Manish Ranade. He has been serving as a Managing Director of Lectra India and Channel Director for Lectra Southwest Asia Business, now based in India since April 2024. In this role, he directs the company's operations and developments across the region with a strong emphasis on providing business through channel management. With 27 years of experience in the cutting room, Mr. Manish has held diverse roles as a customer, agent, and manufacturer. His broad expertise includes operations, services, business development, and solution consulting, involving cutting-edge technologies such as software, cutting equipment, data, and services. We also have with us Mr. Surender Jain. He is a seasoned professional with over 30 years of experience in textile and apparel manufacturing industry. He is renowned for his deep operational expertise. He has successfully re-engineered manufacturing processes for leading Indian and international companies, driving significant improvements in efficiency and profitability. Next on panel is Mr. Vivek Baghora. He is an MBA from IIM Lucknow and started his career in retail space with RPSC Group as National Category Manager, then joined OfBusiness as a founding member of Textiles and Apparel Business. Started with yarn trading and now presently heading Savannah as a Director Operations and currently heading overall operations for fashion and lifestyle across garments, denim and leather accessories at OfBusiness. I request you, Mr. Varun, to kindly initiate the panel discussion. Over to you.
Thank you so much. So, continental Europe, then to Japan, then to different countries. So every single place had the same character, that the manufacturing cost was minimal there, or it was most competitive compared to others. These days also, if you're talking about Bangladesh, Vietnam, they are more cost competitive, and this is one of the biggest reasons that we say that we are not competitive in one product. That's when we are not able to export it, or imports are more in that because some other countries competitive. So competitiveness has to be the key, and I'm talking about specifically about the cost competitiveness. However, whenever we talk about cost competitiveness, so what comes to our mind? How do we optimize the cost, right? So one of the easiest is that we go to place where the labor cost is minimal, right? Of course, subsidies can be there, but our target is labor cost, right? We can have best of the factories, invest a lot in the capital infrastructure, bring modern technology, etc. But what about the people who are going to run? What about the processes which are going to be adopted in order to ensure that whatever we are invested in gives us the best return. So I think this panel is, I would say, going to capture that essence. That what if we talk about cost management, can we look something beyond the, I would say, labor wage arbitrage here? Is there anything that we are missing in the overall scheme of things? So we have gentlemen from different fields who have actually, I would say most of them are consultants in one sense or the other. So they have seen not only factories in India but overseas. Best of the factories, I would say, I work personally for them. And Vivek definitely brings a very different flavor to all the mix. So that is what we actually need. So that's the whole idea, that we would like to understand from them, that we want to manage the cost, but we don't want to cut the corners. We don't want to cut the corners to ensure that the quality, the service, the delivery times are at par with the best of the competitors. So with that, maybe I'll start with Manish here. So maybe I'll just like to understand from you on the overall cost management aspect, and then you can share what are your views on how do we really go about it. And then I would also like to invite other panelists to pitch in whenever you think it's.
Sure, thank you, Varun. So what we see or what has been presented whole day, I think we all agree that when it comes to a garment, a 55 to 65% cost lies with the fabric. So it is of utmost importance for anyone when we talk about reducing the cost. We should look at the biggest shareholder of that product. What we see today, or what we see in India today compared to countries like Bangladesh or Jordan or say Sri Lanka for that matter, is we lose out at the stage of bidding most of the times when we bid for an order. And then when it comes to the fabric, procurement of fabric, when we get the orders, basically we believe in ordering more and leaving it left over. In my way, if we are able to correctly estimate the cost at the time of bidding for the order, and if we are able to correctly order the appropriate quantity, that's a direct saving in your cost factor. So my thought process, the principle of the whole this panel discussion, when it comes to the cost cutting, I think the biggest shareholder is fabric. That's where we should concentrate.
Right. So definitely fabrics has to be the major cost management tool. But what is it that we are doing differently from the other? You have been in Portugal, you have been in other parts of Asia which are doing really well in terms of competitiveness. So could you share a little bit of few examples overseas how they are doing very, very different from what we are doing?
Sure. So what we do today in, I believe 70, 80, 90% cases when it comes to the bid for the cost, we go by the masters. We take the standard size average consumption into volume plus 5% risk, and then we quote for the garment. Right? So that's at the stage of bidding where we have to get the order, we have to quote for the order. Now, why we do that? Because we are not integrated with the technology which can give us most masters or CAD masters knowledge level or their experience and quote that. So that's one part. I came across a very good customer in Jordan, and the chairman sits in Singapore, and I had a meeting with him. I've been working with this company for the last 10-15 years. And he says, Manish, I have my own fabric mills in Taiwan. I have production facilities in Vietnam, Jordan, Egypt. Why it happens that when I bid for 200 options or quotations or say the packets, they call it as packets, my winning ratio is only 32%. I lose out 68% of the orders. Whereas it's my own fabric. And the other person who gets this order uses the same fabric which I manufacture. And then when we review that, we exactly realize that when they have to quote, their 100% quotation to their customer was based on estimate. We applied some technology, we brought them with us on the technology part, and there was a drastic change. We started with 50% quotations going on the real estimate of the cost. So that's one part of the case. And that's where it comes that how you can use the technology, how you can connect your main power, how you can connect your main power with your equipments and technology and make use of it. That's one of the examples. The second example comes from India, where when the fabric was ordered, the fabric was again ordered based on the estimate. Because when you order a fabric, you are in a much better situation to control what you are ordering. But it is still ordered based on the past experience, assuming the widths will be not same, and all those factors which are taken into the consider while ordering the fabric. And once again, when we saw this, connecting this process with the technology, best use of technology, we realized that we are able to make savings of 2% at the stage of procurement. Because it's a direct saving. If you order more and save the fabric, there is no value of leftover fabric.
So basically what you're saying is that you're taking out the guessing game out of the whole equation and bringing in more scientific approach to deciding what is the requirement or the basic things. So maybe you would also like to contribute here, because again fabrics or the cost management is one area where we have also seen a lot of issues emerging, and how do we, so what I keep on hearing from you is that the cut to pack is always very less. We order more but we ship less, so there is a 4%, 5% order loss. So is that something which is happening worldwide, or is it unique to us?
Yeah, thanks for giving the opportunity. And what Manish is saying, like I fully agree with him. Actually, like the most important thing, how you raise the order, how you calculate the fabric, right? The calculation itself is very scientific process.
Can you be close to mic?
Hello. Yeah. Calculation itself, fabric calculation itself is a very scientific process. And instead of just to give averages, how to calculate based on what size grids or what availability of right patterns and how you make post-it markers, and then scientifically you are making the orders. I'll give an example of my previous organization, more than like 15 years ago.
Outside India?
Yeah, outside India, what we used to do. Because you are getting fabric, say for example, generally people order 100 to 103% fabric, right? To cut 100 to 100, 300%. So we were ordering 100% fabric, reduced by 2%, and you have to cut 103%. The 3 to 4% margin you have to take out by virtue of your software, your markers, how you cut, how you consume the fabric, how you make it lay. I'll give just recently, last 2 weeks before, I had visited Sri Lanka, and unfortunately, like what I found after visiting multiple factories, few factories are doing very good. Maybe what name we take, always 4 to 5 names.
Yeah.
If we take other 90% stuff, is not up to the mark, honestly. Right? And same I was sharing my thoughts with Manish also as well, and he was agreed. How lay is being done? How much wastages are going on? Right? Too much wastage, because we sometimes give, like this bad name to the machine setting or operator or training. But the training, how you train the people on those operations. Always what I say, as an investor, you invest on the technology, you invest on the factory, on the machines. For example, you have taken the AutoCAD, AutoCAM, you bought the technology for the cutting. But have you given enough training and the monitoring on that aspect? First, because initially only basic training is being given. Then what I agree with Aman, she said about retention. Are we able to retain the people? After 6 months, somebody else is available and they are not trained. So training itself is a continuous process.
Right.
And once you are trained, how you are monitoring them? What target was kept?
Right.
Lay to lay, fabric to fabric, order to order. And those monitoring will give you those benefits in terms of real monitoring benefits.
Right. No, I'll come back to you on the training part, because it is not only about fabrics, but it is across all the departments.
Just we are giving example of fabric.
Yeah, sure.
Where 2 to 3%, because these, what I have like experience, I know Manish like maybe 25, 30 years, right? And when we sell the machine, we commit, you will do this. And they are true. But when we do practically, they are not able to achieve those targets.
Correct.
Then we blame the technology. But those training part and control part are missing.
Right. No, that's really the point. But just help me understand that. Both of you have given international examples. I actually asked you to give it. Is it very different in India? Can't it be done in India, or is it already being done in India and we are not aware? At least I'm not aware. Or what is the situation?
So it's done in India, but if you say
The adoption rate
yeah,
is little.
yeah, adoption rate is
Any
very
specific idea? Because ideally it's a no-brainer, right? So what you're talking about is managing the biggest cost part. You're trying to save 10% of the biggest component or 5% of the biggest component, which is like 2 to 3% of the bottom line. So mathematically it's a no-brainer. But why is the adoption rate so? Do we have, as an industry, we have a little confidence on it, or we have overconfidence in ourselves?
What I see is when you want to get into the technology,
Yeah,
the one thing is you need to adopt it completely.
right.
What I see in India in most of the cases, we are too selective and we are too conservative.
Right.
The first, you adopt it 100%. The second, trust it. If you trust the technology, and before you getting into the adoption or trusting the technology, you must validate that technology whether it works for you. Because what we do today, yeah, he is doing good, so I'll do the same thing.
Right.
Maybe different.
Or he has not done good, so that's why it will not work for me as well.
Yeah. So that's what I find in India. For that matter, I really appreciate Bangladesh. But what I was talking about costing estimation, what I was talking about fabric procurement ordering, they are so advanced. They are so advanced, we call it subscription model. Bangladesh has a 100% adaptability of all these tools which are available. We find it difficult, now I want to name it, then I can name it Gokuldas is one of the first customer which I worked for last 1 year, and we are seeing the excellent fabric saving results.
Great, thank you so much. So, I'd like to move on to Anupam now. So, Anupam, I have a very, very different question for you, right? So 5 years from now, what we are hearing is that the landscape is going to change immensely, right? True. People will be buying second-hand clothing. There will be thrift shops all over. There are there. And getting product into Europe, whatever little we'll be able to sell, is going to be extremely difficult because they are bringing the sustainability textile policy and all this. Then within that there is a dreaded 3-word DPP, right? Digital Product Passport. So traceability has to be fully. So you work in that domain, right? So, do you see other companies, other countries, companies in other countries leading by example? Is there something which is going on in India? What is your experience in that matter? Because again, when we are talking about cost management, this is an essential cost. Nobody is going to buy, is not going to pay for it, but they will ask for it, right? Ultimately, the business may not increase, but because of having this thing, but it will not come if you don't have it, right?
Absolutely.
So what is your take on that?
So it's a very interesting topic, and it's a talk of the town, sustainability and traceability, because it's becoming a law from 1st of Jan in UK and EU, right?
Next year, 2025?
Yeah. So we already initiated, this particular module in our application last year, and because a lot of manufacturing companies outside India were really looking forward to it. Now the challenge with this particular traceability specifically is you need to track the complete supply chain, starting from tier 1 to tier 2 to tier 3.
Starting from the origin of the fiber, right?
Yes, exactly, right? Now it's very difficult to track these, on an Excel sheets or, to track this manually. And like you said, buyers are not going to do it, right? Buyers are giving it to the manufacturers. And what talks we are also having with some of the buyers like Lidl and all, what they are saying is there will also be components of chargeback if the traceability is not correct.
Okay.
Right? So now, it will be in some form of a liability which manufacturer has to do, right? Now in other countries like we were doing in Peru, with a very big company, so they adopted this traceability from I think so mid of this year, okay? And the buyers are quite happy, and also they are seeing a lot of good new buyers engagement because of adopting that particular technology. Because in US also now people are seeing, okay, if you are a manufacturer and you already have, sustainability and traceability in your product range, they are trying to adapt those particular manufacturers. So these manufacturers are getting points. So yes, outside India, a lot of companies have already gone into this direction, and I think it's high time for India to acknowledge this has to come, okay? So some way or the other, they have to go into this particular area.
So let me just try to understand a little bit more from you. So I'm a garment manufacturer. I am supposed to buy, let's say example, I'm supposed to buy a nominated fabric. So what is the traceability meaning for me? My traceability is only limited to the buyer telling me that this is the fabric you have to buy. I'll buy it. What do I do? I'm just trying to understand here. What is the role of technology? What do I input as a technology to give them a DTP because I'm going to export it?
Right.
How do I get the back tracing? Is it a kind of an integration from the mill? The information is coming to me, I'm processing it. What is it?
Right. So, like you are rightly saying, buyer is going to ask and buyer is giving you a nominated supplier also for your fabric. But it is your responsibility to track the supply chain even for a fabric supplier.
No, as a garment manufacturer, am I supposed to track back the supply chain of the fabric as well?
That's expected. So that is expected that, once we are giving that particular order to a fabric supplier, we should have the complete traceability, we should have all the certificate of codes and all.
Oh, you mean to say that the fabric supplier will give all the backward information and then I need to add it in my product portfolio?
Not exactly, because we had seen this, and lot of fabric suppliers also don't have the complete traceability by their own.
So then how can a garment manufacturer do that?
Yeah, so basically there are ways, to trace it, because ultimately when you are buying the fabric, they had to show that what is the traceability of the complete supply chain down the line.
Okay.
Now from that traceability, it becomes our duty as a garment manufacturer, because we are shipping to the buyer. It becomes our duty as a manufacturer to follow up on those particular compliance matters, whether it's tier 2, whether it's tier 3, whether it's a dyeing process or any process, right, on that particular fabric. So it's our duty to follow up on these particular compliances and give it to the customer.
I think one more thing, a corollary to this is that the buyers are actually preferring to work in vertical integrated suppliers, right? So that's one way of streamlining the process itself, that if you have all the information in-house, it makes a lot of life easier for all the stakeholders involved. That is also one of the ways. So like Prashant showed in the morning, so you talk about any multi-billion-dollar company which is there. So there are four characters which are common. One of them is that they are integrated either from yarn to garments or at least from fabric to garment. So
That's very correct. And we were working with one of the company in Vietnam. Okay, they are also vertically integrated. And what you're saying is making a lot of sense, because with this sustainability solution, traceable solution, they are getting a lot of traction from the market, from the buyers, especially in Europe. So in this year particularly, they added 5 more buyers, and it's not easy to
They are kind of first mover advantage.
Exactly. So I hope, because India is a very growing country, so I hope people acknowledge it and go to that particular competition, to get these type of first mover advantage with the buyers.
Right. Thank you. Vivek, I'll now like to move to you. So when we, as a coming from a manufacturing background, as we are talking about managing the costs, etc. So is there any way that we have the entire stakeholders in your system having that kind of a mindset that we talk about cost management, we ensure that the wastages are pruned down to the bare minimal possible and everybody is working towards the same goal, which is cost management? Have you been doing some of these experiments or trials in your factory? And even from a digitalization perspective, what Anupam has been talking about, if you could just shed some light on that.
Thanks first of all to having me in this beautiful panel discussion. I think Manish and Surender made the very good points about the technology and training has a role in the cost management. But what I believe, when you look at the cost management as a holistic cost management for a manufacturing company, it is something, a mindset, not the skill. So mindset which needs to be built inside the organization. So what used to happen earlier, it was a role of the owners. Okay, when there was a small scale companies or a mid scale companies up to 400, 500 crores turnover, owners used to get involved in the whatever costings are being sent to the buyers, and the cost control at each and every stage is starting from the procurement in the manufacturing processes and all. But then I think once you want to go beyond, let's say, 1,000 crore mark and something at that scale, when you want to build a $1 billion company, you have to build that mindset in the organization, and that can be done, I think, via having a costing cell as a separate division, as a parallel division. I think some of the biggies have this as a division in the company, but whatever I've seen in the couple of organizations in garment manufacturing, I think many are not having costing as a dedicated cell. So you need to have a costing as a dedicated cell who are like the there to check whatever has been made and whatever is being sent to the buyer. So there is kind of a like a maker and checker kind of a role. So there are people who are making costings, and then there are people who are involved in the making of the garments. But then you need a dedicated cell who are there as a checker, and their role is to make sure that whatever, at the end, costing is a very fundamental, in the any particular business. It's a mathematics. You just need to add your fabrics, price, CMP and everything. But it looks very simple, but somehow many companies, miss in so many things when it comes to the cost of
Thank you for that idea, Vivek. Actually, my question was a little different. So I understand definitely you can't, it's a mandatory, having a department in it, it's a mandatory thing. What I was trying to understand from you is that how do we bring that mindset into the people who are there? Having a cell, printing out some reports saying that this has to be done. Of course, it would be good to have some targets, but how do we ensure that everybody has a buy-in? Is that something from the entire, how do we drive everybody towards that kind of a target? I can say that next year I'll have a 300 crore target. But unless I have the buy-in from the internal stakeholders, which could be from the worker to my CEO, how do we do that? So is that something which you see possible in Indian structures? You have been working in the factory with all the stakeholders. So that's what I was actually looking for.
So we had a very beautiful session just before this, that how you can create owners in the organization. So that is one of the ways you can build a mindset for the cost management amongst all the employees in the organization. So whenever they are up to something to save, a penny saved is something penny earned for them. So that is a kind of a way out in the company which you can build. Incentive for all. It's not only for the top management.
So do you also have incentive linked models that you is prevailing in the factories?
Yeah, we have a couple of models where we make sure that everybody is a part of the kind of earning what we are doing at the company level. So at a group level of business also, people who are there, I think majority of the people who joined us in starting, they are still with us. Why? Because I think almost more than 90% of them are having some kind of shares or some kind of, stakeholding in the company. So that is something what we are trying to replicate the same in the manufacturing companies as well. So we are not yet, I think that something which we already achieved when it comes to manufacturing, but we are on to verge of something where we are planning, and we are on the journey to build the fantastic kind of incentive models and the ownership driven company where everyone feels that okay, they are the part of the company, and whatever is being made, they are something to earn for them as well.
Vivek, one more question to you before I move on. So what is your experience when we are talking about cost management tools or cost cutting tools per se? So what's your take on the digitalization tools which are there in the market? And Anupam, this is for you also, but let me have feedback from Vivek as a user industry. What do you think about digitalization tools? Are you adopting them? Are you finding them good, or there are a lot of challenges which are there?
So I think there are many readily available tools available in the market.
Right.
But from my opinion and what we experienced in the last 3 years, that first you need to validate the tool, as I think Manish also mentioned, that you need to validate the tool and the software which is there available in the market. And what we believe that rather than going for the something which is already made, as an industry, because we are into fashion industry and every category requires some different kind of attention. Knits is something different, woven is something different. And if we talk about, like, we have presence into shoes and accessories and to denim and the western wear garments and all. So everything requires something different. So rather than going for something readily available, you should go for something customized kind of a software which can be useful for you.
And as the moment you were saying, so Anupam is shifting in his chair, I can actually hear his thoughts coming that I can give you all customization and everything, right Anupam? You like to add it?
So you are right. This industry is very different, and the standard software wouldn't work in this particular industry. So you need industry-specific customized software in this particular to actually facilitate this particular domain. And yes, digitalization is a term and is very much needed in this industry, especially when you try to see end-to-end data. Okay, you had done something on a costing, you had done something on a production floor, you had done something on a packing side, beautiful. But how it all relates, how the number comes out. Unless and until you don't have an end-to-end, visibility of a data, which you can only have if you have a digital solution across the product lines, right? Till the time you will not have those particular numbers. And it's very much important because the companies, when I see outside, is now scaling up a lot. Companies in Vietnam are shifting to Mexico. They want to close to the market, they want to close to the buyers, right? So, these type of things you can only do once you have complete comparative data, right?
So that is true. It's true that you need certain tools. Correct. Certain tools that give you the visibility. But it starts with the system. So first you need to build that system in the company. I think our business is all about systems and processes. There is nothing more than that what we can do in the industry. It's a very basic business model. It's a stitching of lakhs of the crores of garments, what you are doing at scale. So what all you need is just to build those systems and processes. So first you need to build processes in your company up to certain scale, and beyond that you require technique, digitization on the same. Today I am sitting right now here also, I am having, with the help of just G Suits, I am having a daily visibility of all my companies. Whatever output and whatever costings are being sent, and what is the efficiency coming, and what is the cut to ship ratio, and all this basic data is already there. But beyond such scale, is it workable? I think no. We need digitization over there, but it needs to be customized. And first you need to adapt the system inside the company. That mindset has to be there, and after that I think you can definitely go for such tools. And that too, customized ones, not the...
And Vivek mentioned about, and even Manish mentioned about the validation. So Manish, the question is for you also. So we have to, the manufacturers, and even you are saying that validation. So how is validation possible? Both of you, I can just know if there is any taker of this kind of a technology or a digitalization tool. So how do we really validate that it works for me or not?
Right. That's a very nice question. People, adaptability is a major question when they want to choose a particular digitalization software, right? Now, the question in their mind is, will I get a return on investment? Yes or no? By when will I get my return on investment? Or what will it change? I'm doing my business for 20 years. What it will change if I get a tool? Okay.
I think worker level skill is something will be there. You can keep them training and it can be improved, and also with some kind of automation in the machines and all, you can come up with the efficiencies in the production. But what middle management needs to improve is our industry is completely about the micromanagement. So data is there. Digitization से data आए, चाहे Google Sheets से आए, कहीं से भी data आएगा. You need to take calls on it. So there has to be rigorous reviews. Let's say on twice in a week or once in a week, you look into your data. There's a middle management, as a HOD level role is to look into your data and give a right guidance to your team or down the level people who are there. So that is very much important. And I think there will be not overnight change which will come, but it's like, as they said, there is a Japanese concept of Kaizen. So you need to improve yourself a little bit on a regular basis.
Heartening to hear your comments. So you, in the first discourse, you said that this industry is not complicated, it's just about stitching, right? So all the people here are just stitching, but if you talk about it is about stitching. So there's a difference in the overall mindset that you're talking about, and you're saying that data is everything. well, we get, oh my God, we have to manage the data also. So there's a complete U-turn in the approach. That's what, when you come from outside, so you need a fresh eye to perspective. When you're inside the maze, it is very difficult to find the way out. But if you're on the top of it, if you're solving it on paper, it gives a large bird's eye view. That's what it's about. So I really appreciate your comments on that. And I would actually like to, we still have 5-7 minutes, I guess. Yeah, so this is an interesting discussion. Well, before I summarize and conclude, maybe if there is anybody who would like to have any question to the panelists or even comment or any observation to the discussion we have had so far, please, Mr. Chawla, the first one in all the panels.
Just trying to read what is written there, very boldly. Cutting cost, not corners. I feel that it is not all about where we are lacking is cost management tools.
Correct.
It is more to do with the mindset. Just trying to borrow some words from the panel only, She talked about treat your employees like stakeholders, and treat them like an asset, Manish ji said about, connect and communicate, because till the time you are not connecting, not communicating with your bricks, the founding bricks are, your people, your process. The mindset has to be in the direction that you have to create a quality first company. The moment you create a quality first company, I think many moving pieces, they start to fall in place. Quality would be there. We'll be conscious about the cost, the waste factor about it, We'll be mindful of the processes. We'll be mindful of the people, of the techniques, everything. So I think it is more to do. The wrap around is human. Because end of the day, AI also is, I say, that I first, am first in the sense that it starts, I have only created AI,
Okay.
And it is always going to be, we are super intelligent. Gen I is only intelligent.
Thank you so much for your comments. You have actually eased my work also. Thank you so much for that. Anybody else? So we'd love to have any of the questions, any bricks or bouquets, whatever. I see a hand there or no? Anyway, thank you so much for having a patient hearing, and we have been throwing out 45-minute or 1 hour kind of a schedule. So I really appreciate everybody of you joining here and then giving the, I would say, mantra for cost cutting, which is training and retaining, I would say, in the last. So training is one, having the right mindset across the verticals in different departments, and then talking about the technology, using it in the right way, and utilization. And of course, on top of it, as Mr. Chawla said, that it is all about human beings, and it's just about switching, but that it's the human aspect of it, and then we have to ensure that the HR parts reign supreme in this thing, and we have to have the best of the people work with us, attract them, and then most importantly, retain them. With that, I'd like to conclude the panel discussion. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
And helping to stay ahead of competition. Thank you so much for that discussion. I will now invite Mr. Vivek Gupta, MD Team Karen, and Mr. Rajat Kumar, MD Puja International, to kindly come on stage. I would request Mr. Vivek Gupta to present memento to Mr. Varun, Vaid, moderator for the session. And panelist Mr. Anupam Jaiswal. Thank you, Mr. Vivek. I would now invite Mr. Rajat Kumar to kindly present memento to Mr. Manish, Ranade. To Mr. Surender, Jain. And to Mr. Vivek, Baghora. Thank you so much.
Thank you.